dedicate our learning to Israel, the Panacea, and also for Shlema for everyone that meets. We'll start Lamed Amid Beis. And we'll start 6 lines from the bottom, Amalei Abayla Rav Yosef. We have to go back, just discuss a little bit what happened over here. Got a machlekes Reb Daisa, Ben Zayma. Ben Zayma and Reb Yehuda. When someone comes into the Beis Hamikdash, the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol, his first tefillah. Trying to think if this is specifically the Kohen Gadol. The limit of Ben Zayma is from the Kohen Gadol. That if the Kohen Gadol has to change his clothes from one thing to another, so for sure someone that comes into the Beis Hamikdash has to go to the mikveh when he changes his clothing. So when someone comes into the Beis Hamikdash, he should also have to go to the mikveh. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. That's just a rabbinic institution that he should go to the mikveh to think about if he had any tumah. Yeah, Tvila Zu Lama Shall Kol Shachris. Yeah, it's not just the Kohen Gadol. It's every person when they come into the Beis Hamikdash. When they go to the mikveh, it's machlekes Ben Zayma and the Rabbanon. If it's a Kal V'chomer from the Kohen Gadol, or if it's just that he should try to put his mind to it that he maybe there was tumah that he came across. Okay. Then we had some questions on Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, because we have another statement from Rabbi Yehuda where he says, Mitzayra doesn't need to go to the mikveh in the morning when he comes to bring his karbanos. We said that he should put his mind to it. He said, well, a Mitzayra, he just went to the mikveh. That was our answer. He just went to the mikveh the day before, so he's fine. But everyone else who should go to the mikveh. Now, it's rabbinic, but he should go to the mikveh. Then we had another question. We had a contradiction. It says not only a Mitzayra should go to the mikveh, but everyone should go to the mikveh. Now, this is a real contradiction in Rabbi Yehuda, because you just said that a Mitzayra doesn't need to. Now you're telling me that a Mitzayra does. So we gave 3 answers for that. One answer was that it depends if you went to the mikveh yesterday with the intention of coming to the Beis Hamikdash today. If you had that in mind, then that will help for today as well. That was answer number 1. And then today you won't have to go to the mikveh because you did it yesterday. If not, you have to go again. Answer number 2 was you dropped the word Mitzayra, Le Mitzayra Bilvad. You dropped that. And we say that a Mitzayra doesn't need to go to the mikveh, like we said before, but everyone else does. And that would be an answer. The third answer that we gave was, really, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Mitzayra himself doesn't need to go to the mikveh. But he's telling the Rabbanan that the Rabbanan say that a Mitzayra goes to the mikveh. Rabbi Yehuda is telling them that I hold that a Mitzayra doesn't need to go to the mikveh because he went yesterday. But according to you, why specifically a Mitzayra? It should be everyone. And the Rabbanan themselves said, no, well, a Mitzayra is more involved in Tumah, Dayish. It's so accustomed to being Tameh, so he's not careful. But really, everyone else doesn't need to go to the mikveh. So now there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. If, according to Rabbi Yehuda, everyone does need to go to the mikveh. According to the Rabbanan, they don't need to go to the mikveh. Okay, let's start. Amalei Abayla Rav Yosef. Abaya says to Rav Yosef, name a Rabbanan, the Pligala, the Rabbi Yehuda. Let's say the Rabbanan that say Different than the way you just said. You just said that according to the Rabbanan, only a Mitzayra needs to go to the mikveh, but not everyone else. And Rabbi Yehuda is telling them that according to you, everyone should go to the mikveh. Let's say it different. Abaya says, let's say that the Rabbanan really hold Ben Zayma, Svirlo. They really hold like Ben Zayma. Now, you remember Ben Zayma said that going to the mikveh on entering the base of Mikdash was a Kal V'chaymer. So why did they just say that a Mitzayra, according to Ben Zayma, everyone has to go to the mikveh? Rabbi Yehuda is coming to show you the strength of Rabbi Yehuda that a Mitzayra doesn't need to go to the mikveh. That's why we mentioned Mitzayra. In other words, Abai is saying that maybe he got it all wrong. Maybe the Rabbanan really hold that everyone needs to go to the mikveh before they come. It's mamish the same opinion as Ben Zayma, like we learned at the beginning at the end of Lamed Amid Aleph, where Ben Zayma says that it's a Kal V'chaymer. So why did you mention Mitzayra? It's coming to tell me a chiddush that Rabbi Yehuda holds a Mitzayra doesn't. Now, does Rabbi Yehuda really hold that a Mitzayra doesn't? Well, it depends on our answer. We had to discuss this before, but we gave three answers. One answer was the Mitzayra doesn't if he thought about coming into the temple tomorrow. He doesn't. Another possibility was that, just clearly you drop the word Bilvad, like Mitzayra Bilvad, and you say not a Mitzayra but Kol Adam. Only everyone else needs to. And the third answer was that I hold that a Mitzayra doesn't need to. What would Rabbi Yehuda hold? Rabbi Yehuda holds that a Mitzayra doesn't need to go to the mikveh because he went yesterday. And he's telling the rabbis that you're saying that a Mitzayra does need to go to the mikveh. According to you, why doesn't everyone need to go to the mikveh? Now we're saying that maybe that's what the rabbis really hold, that everyone needs to go to the mikveh. They hold like Ben Zayma. And so why do you mention the word Mitzayra? To tell me that Rabbi Yehuda holds a Mitzayra doesn't. So Oidilma, or maybe the Pshat is Shani Mitzayra the Dayesh B'tumah. Or maybe not. Maybe the rabbis hold that specifically a Mitzayra has to go to the mikveh, but they don't hold the Ben Zayma that everyone needs to go to the mikveh. It's just that Dayesh B'tumah, the Mitzayra is always so accustomed to being Tameh, so he's the one that needs to go to the mikveh before he comes into the base of Mikdash. Amalei Shani Mitzayra Dayesh B'tumah. So Rabbi Yosef says no, it's specifically a Mitzayra. Okay, he gives him an answer. Doesn't explain like why it has to be like that. Okay. There's a funny thing in this Gemara. It could be the expression "V'haidik tani mitzayra le'diacha koichei de Rabbi Yehuda." What is Rabbi Yehuda's shita? Rabbi Yehuda's shita is that a mitzayra doesn't need to go to the mikveh, but everyone else does. What's the shita of the Rabbanan? According to this, the shita of the Rabbanan would be that everyone needs to go to the mikveh. If it would be that Rabbi Yehuda held that no one needs to go to the mikveh, even a mitzayra, then I would understand leidiacha koichei de Rabbi Yehuda. But if it's just an argument about one item, then leidiacha koichei usually tells me that he's being so lenient. It's a little strange. But maybe not. Maybe leidiacha koichei de Rabbi Yehuda is coming to tell me that Rabbi Yehuda is mekel by a mitzayra, because he went to the mikveh yesterday. If you accept that teretz. Okay, now we have a new piece. Amalei Abaye l'Rabbi Yosef. It's unclear if we should read the next words. L'Rabbi Yehuda The Amar Srach Tefillah Hizu, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that says at the mikveh that you the immersion that you do when you enter into the Beis Hamikdash, that's only to put your mind to it to see if you came across Tumah in the last day, or any time previously before you went to that, and you haven't gone to the mikveh yet. So it's just it's not a real tefillah because it's not a real tefillah. It's just so you should put your mind to it. So he says this tefillah, chaitzitz ay eina chaitzitz. Do we have the laws of chatzitza by such a tefillah? Can we just say that it's not a real tefillah? So it's just to put your mind to it anyway. So it doesn't really matter if there's a chatzitza. Chatzitza means an interruption, something that's on your skin that doesn't let the water touch your skin. The whole idea of the mikveh is just so you should concentrate to remember if there was any tumah. Maybe chatzitza shouldn't matter. Amalei, so he responded, called the tikkun rabbanan ken deraisa tikkun. If the rabbis instituted it, then they instituted it like the original. And that is that you have to be careful that there's no chatzitza. Taisvis doesn't accept the way that we learned this. We learned this according to Rashi, and we actually put the words in Rabbi Yehuda. You see there's a parenthesis there. Taisvis says that the question is according to Rabbi Deisa as well. Not Rabbi Deisa, I keep saying Rabbi Deisa. Ben Zayma. Ben Zayma is the other Gemara I'm learning in the afternoon. So there's a Ben Deisa there, so it keeps coming out. So how does Taisvis do that? Ben Zayma says that, what do you mean it's a real tefillah? So what's the shaila there? He says, it's only a real tefillah if you're going to do avodah. But here you're just going in for no purpose, or biurikanis, he calls it. Ben Zayma would agree that it's only rabbinic, and maybe there's no reason to work on top of Lamed Aleph. And maybe the laws of Chatzitza don't apply. Yeah. We have this question that could come up. Let's say someone needs a gerus l'chumra. So a lot of times the people think gerus l'chumra is a doubt on the first conversion. They say, well, it's just a gerus l'chumra. So all the details don't really matter. They're not so this and not so that. Maybe, no, it doesn't work like that. There was a shaila on the first one. If you want to resolve it, you're going to make a shaila, another one with a shaila. It doesn't fix the problem. So, so whatever it was the rabbis instituted, you have to do it 100% correct. Okay. Amalei Abayla Rabbi Yosef. Abaya asks to Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is the teacher. This is the third question that we have here. He asks him, He's asking regarding Tefillah. You have to go to the mikveh before you enter into the Beis Hamikdash. Let's say you're not really entering. Let's say you're just putting your hand in or something. So Amalei, Rabbi Yosef responds, the thumbs of the Mitzayra. We have a brisa that says that the Mitzayra goes to the mikveh. We said, Rabbi Yehuda says that he doesn't need to go to the mikveh. But that's because he went to the mikveh the day before. That's not if not for that, he would have to go to the mikveh. So you see that even a partial entry is considered an entry, at least regarding tefillah. Yeah. Are you allowed to stick your hands in to a bathroom to take out? Sometimes like you need a tissue or something. So put your hand in and take it out. But you're like wearing tefillin or something in the middle of davening, you have to wash your hands again because you put your hand in. What do you think? Like the Stein says, it's a ben pakua. Okay. Ibailo, the Gemara has a question. Maushi yasa sakin arucha of the yishchad. Let's say you make a very large knife. Very impractical, but theoretically, you make a very large knife, and you're going to chef. you're going to chef the animal. You don't have to be a kohen, right? Even a zar can chef. Use this large knife to chef inside the Beis Hamikdash. The animal needs to be in the Beis Hamikdash. That's clear. In the Azara. You maybe don't need to be in the Beis Hamikdash. You could be outside. Now the question is, would you need tefillah? Would you need to go to the mikveh? Because you're doing a service in the temple. You're not in the temple, but the service is being done in the temple. Not in the Azara. Not in the Azara. So the Gemara says, Tibayla ben Zayma, Tibayla Rabbanan, the Pligela de Rabbi Yehuda. It's a question according to Ben Zayma that says that entering into the temple is to do a service is a deraisa. It's a kavachaimer that you need tefillah. It's also a question according to the Rabbanan that I go on Rabbi Yehuda that says only the Mitzayra needs to go to the mikveh, but no one else. So Tibayla ben Zayma, it's a question according to Ben Zayma because Ad kan lemachai ben Zayma legavoy. Only for inside. Maybe Ben Zayma says only if you're going inside, but here you're not entering into the temple. There's no problem into the Azara. Or maybe this is going to be an issue because you're going to be drawn in. You're going to step in. Oh, I'm just about to get it. I'm just one more step, and you end up inside. So maybe you should have to go to the mikveh. Yeah, Taisvis and Taisvis Yishanim are bothered about another Gemara. There's another Gemara that says that can someone that's tamei use a long knife to chef? Over there, it doesn't say maybe he's going to enter into the Azar. It says there's a problem that maybe he's going to touch the meat. 1 second, before he touches the meat, he's going to have to come into the Azar. If he's tamei, it's going to be tamei in the Azar. Why doesn't that Gemara use the same issue that we have here, that you may get drawn into the Azara because of whatever you're doing?
I don't remember, but if he was telling you which one makes the
yeah, so he would make it, Tamei Meis would make the Keli Tamei. Yeah, that would be a problem. So you see, places answers that over there he's really tamei, so he's so careful not to go in. So the only issue is that maybe if this mishap could happen and he's going to end up touching the meat, but he knows that he can't go in. Here, the person is tar. The person is tar. He just didn't go to the mikveh. And I'm tar anyway. Like my hands are clean, right? But I have the vaccine. So I'm not worried. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, this practical question, like, is it possible to really use like a long knife to?
It doesn't, I mean, I don't know if the kashrus organizations would allow you to do it because of the things that could go wrong.
Yeah,
but I mean, we had a Gemara of someone that was shechting with a bow and arrow.
It seems fine to ask like a very impractical question, then answer something very practical. Oh, he might get in.
Right.
He might completely mess up the shechita.
Right. Right. And the reason for this question is to determine what Ben Zayma really meant when he said that you have to go to the mikveh before you enter. Does it mean before you do a service, or does it mean before you actually enter? So we're trying to figure this out. Well, let's say I can do a service by not entering. So how would you do that? Well, okay, so we came up with a case that not very practical, but at least it tells me, it will answer the question that I was looking for. So we asked the question here. And now we ask the question according to the Rabbanan. By the Rabbanan, the Pligela de Rabbi Yehuda. They hold that you never need to go to the mikveh. But Adkam like Kamir Rabban Hassan the Kavod Avoda. That's because you weren't doing any service. Aval the Kavod Avoda loy, but here you're about to do a service. Ideal Malayshna, or maybe there's no difference. Now there's a problem with this Gemara as well, because you're saying that you're doing a service. Taisus Yishanim brings this. He says, here you're saying Shchita is Avoda. All over the Gemara says Shchita is Lav Avoda. We said Shchita doesn't have to be a Kayan. Not an Avoda. He says it's all right. It's an Avoda, but it's not an Avoda. Don't be bothered by the wording that calls it Avoda. The fact is, you're doing something in the temple. So maybe the Rabbanan that say normally you don't need to go to the mikveh. That's only when you're not doing a service. But here you're actually doing a service. Okay. Chamish tvilos the Gemara answers with teku. Teku means we leave it as a question. I don't know. Is there a list of all the tekus? Of how many tekus there are? When Mashiach comes, when Eliyahu comes, we'll be there with the checklist. What was this one? Everyone, all the reporters. What about the Flamadala? Do you have any comment on the tekus?
It's 560.
Oh, really?
No.
Is there a search?
It would be a great man.
You have to do a search. I can do a search on Sefaria. Sefaria would do a search, specifically a teku you can put in just on Shas. And then we can see. Dr. Stein says that there's 516 because of the Gematria teku. Okay. Chamish Tvilas Vasar Kedushin Taiva. Is that the Mishnah? What it said? Taival Kain Gadol and Makadish by Bayam. Yeah, it stops in the middle of a sentence. That sounds funny. 5 times he goes to the mikveh, and 10 times he washes his hands. The Kain Gadol does this on Yom Kippur. Okay. Taner Rabban was taught in a brayso. Chamish Tvilas Vasar Kedushin Taival Kain Gadol and Makadish by Bayam. Kulam B'Kodesh, the base of Parva. All of them are in the sanctuary, not the sanctuary, but in the Azara, in the holy area, in the base of Parva, which that was the room. Except for the first one when he came in the morning. Well, he was there, but when he enters into the Azara, Al Gabi Sharamayim, over there he does it on the Chol. He does it outside. It's on top of the water gate. So that was near where he was. It was near his room. We had a discussion which room, because he had a classroom and he also had a bedroom. So we said it was near the bedroom. That would be more convenient. So what do we see from this? Okay, the first one was not done in the Azara proper. It was done outside. It was done on the Sharamayim on top of the gate. So usually you don't build swimming pools, up on the top floor. But you could, and here they did. They built it on top of the gate. Amar Abaya, Shmamina ein etam gavoya mikarka zaras esrim v'shalish ames. I don't know the laws, what the name of this law is. Pascal or something.
I just did a quick search. There's 734 tekus in the Talmud.
Oh, 734.
Yeah.
734. We need a new. Oh wow. Wow. Very nice. That's a Sefaria search.
Yeah.
Talmud Bavli.
Yeah.
734. You can remember that because 3 + 4 is 7. Okay. So, what we're looking at here is how do you get the water to go up? The only way you can get the water to go up is if it starts at a higher source. When it flows down, it will go up to the same source. It's supposed to, right? Physics. So, the water towers. So it must be that Ein Etam, which was the water source, is 23 amas above the level of the Azara in order to get the water up to the mikveh. Ditnan, because we're taught in the Mishnah. Kol hapsachim shayisham goivan esrim ama, barak ben esrim amas, chutz mishalulam. All the gates of the Beis Hamikdash were 20 amas tall. That means if I have to get water on top of a gate, it's got to be at least 20. The source of it needs to be 20 amas high, and then the water will go down and come up to that level. Vitanya was also taught in the Brisa, v'rachatz b'sari b'mayim, you should wash his flesh in the water. B'mei mikvah, that's the water of a mikvah. Kol b'sari, all his flesh. Mayim shekol gufa elabem. Can't just be a shower. It has to be something that you can get your whole body into. What's the area that your whole body could fit into? Amalama brum gimalama is. It's an amma by an amma with the height of 3 ammas. The sages said that a mikveh is 40 sa. They didn't. Yeah, it's tiny. It's like a little box. It's like a box that a small refrigerator would come in. You know, those mini fridge. Like a box. You just go in. That's the size of a mikveh. 3 ammas. Did I say 4? No, 3. It's an amma by 3 ammas. Three ammas is, let's say it's 18 inches.
1 hour.
An amma. Okay, so there's a basic question here. What are we saying? That the water, ein etam, which is the water source, needs to be 23 ammas. Why? Because the mikveh is 3 ammas tall, and it's on a 20 amma stand. It's on a 20 amma doorway. So it's got to be 23 ammas above the floor of the Azar. Tosfos asks, how do you know the mikveh was 3 ammas tall? Maybe they made a narrow pool, a low pool, 3 ammas long, and 1 amma tall. Same thing, put it sideways. And he goes to the mikveh, he lays down in this thing, and he gets it over his body. It says it would be uncomfortable for the Kohen Gadol. Then Tosfos says maybe they made a hole in the mikveh to let the water enter, and it wasn't really on top. He says no, then it would flow out. It would flow backwards. It wouldn't go high. Yeah. Okay. The Gemara says, 1 second. You're not telling me all the information here, because va'ika amma tikra v'amma maziva. But what about you have the roof? 20 ammas means the doorway, the entrance. But then you have the top of it, and then you have maziva. Maziva is like a plaster, cement that you would put over it. So the Gemara says, "Sharim de Beis Hamikdash kiven de shisha nino b'mashu avdilai." This is telling you that if you want to make a thin insulation for your mikveh, if you use marble, it could be very thin. We're saying since the wall, the gates of the Beis Hamikdash were marble, it doesn't need to be a thick stone. A marble could be a very thin stone, and it can hold the water. The Gemara says, 1 second, but even if it's a thin stone, but you still have something. Why are you telling me it's 3 amma, it's 23 ammas? It's really 23 ammas plus something, point something. So the Gemara answers, well, we're only counting full ammas, not decimal points. We're not doing that. Okay. Parsu sudden shalbutz v'chulu. When he went to the mikveh, this was like up there on the balcony on the second floor. So they would have to put up so no one would people wouldn't see him getting undressed. So they would put up a cloth of linen. Why was it linen? He should remember that what he's doing today is going to be linen. Hachanami shiakar shaved the same big dibut. He should know that today he's going to be wearing linen. Now, it's a funny. Later on, the Gemara is going to say this, but I think over there it's talking about when he's actually going to get dressed. He takes off clothing, goes into the mikveh, comes out. They want to make sure that he doesn't put on the white clothes, the golden clothing, because he went to the mikveh, he's changing his clothing. Then he has to put on the big day lavan, which is linen. But over here, he's putting on the big days of. He's starting his day. He starts his day, wears regular kayin gadol clothing. So that could actually be confusing. But I guess he doesn't have the big day lavan there. We're just putting up this to mention that you should remember that today is Yom Kippur. Yeah. By the way, today is Rosh Chodesh. Remember, somehow we have to remember the whole day. Okay. Yeah. The children in school, they tell them to wear a white shirt. To remember the whole day is. Yeah. Okay.
I was going to ask, boots usually means something dirty. This is a Hebrew word here, isn't it?
Yeah, boots.
Boots usually means something dirty.
No, that's butts with a cholam. Butts is dirt. Boots it's a different word.
It's linen, isn't it? It's maybe specifically white linen. Linen. Let's say bad. What does bad mean? Bad means linen also?
Isn't boots a color? It's like more. It's not the material. I think it's a color. Boots vargaman, like in the Megillah.
So maybe it's white and linen was white. Or off-white. Yeah, okay. Pashat, there's a new Mishnah. Pashat is he gets undressed. Yorad v'taval, he goes down and he goes to the mikveh. Olav and Estapak, he comes up and he dries off. If you only big days of, and they bring him the golden clothing. The lavash, he puts it on. The kiddush yad v'raglav, and then he washes his hands and his feet. Gemara's going to discuss that he didn't do a kiddush yadayim v'raglayim first. What happened to that? I thought that every time he goes to the mikveh, he has to wash his hands before, and then he washes his hands after. That's well, we're saying this is his first time going to the mikveh. He says he has to go to the mikveh. The last Mishnah says he has to go to the mikveh. Now it's discussing how he goes. This is the first time. If you big days of lavash, the kiddush yad v'raglav, and then he washes his hands. If you said tamid, they bring him the carbon tamid. When did he do the Chumas Adeshin? That he did previously, right? Did he go to the mikveh before the Chumas Adeshin? Yeah, that day he had to do everything, right? So, Barishayna, yeah, I'm not sure if they went to the mikveh before the Chumas Adeshin. It just says Kiddush Yadav l'Chumas Adeshin. You don't have to wash again. I don't know. Okay. So they bring him the carbon tamid. Then kartzu means that he shechted, but he didn't do the full shechita. He did it just to make it kosher. I'm sorry? Incision. An incision. And then Umira Kacha Shchita al Yadai, and someone else completes it. Kibala Saddam. Why doesn't, yeah.
Like he walked the spot.
Yeah, but he had to make it kosher. He had to make it kosher. It wasn't just the mark like you do on the challah. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a shchita. Yeah, it sounds like that. But what he needed to do all the service today. So because he needed to catch the blood, so he couldn't finish the shchita, he needed someone else to. He can't use your left hand, so he has to hand it over to someone else while he catches the blood. Kibbutz Saddam. Bizarka, when he goes and he sprinkles the blood. Nichnas lahaktik ter shel shachar. He comes in to do the ketairas in the morning. Ketairas was brought twice a day. Ulaheti vesaneres, and to clean out the candles. Ulahakar vesaroish veseivarim, and to bring the head and the other limbs. Vesachavitan, and also the flour that he would bring every day. That's the kind gadol's carbon. Vesayayin, and also the wine that comes along with the carbon. Ketairas shel shachar is a kreva beidam leivarim. If you notice, what we said was that he sprinkles the blood, then he does the ketairas, and then he goes back to do the limbs. So the ketairas was in between the blood and the limbs. Shall bein arbayim bein yivarim l'nesachim. But in the afternoon, the ketairas was brought not in between the blood and the limbs, but after the limbs were put on the altar, in between that and putting the nesachim on the altar. We're going back to his mikveh experience. If he was old or istinus, or he was delicate, yeah. So mechamen lechamen, they could heat him. Chamen sounds like hot water. They would heat hot water. I don't know why I remember that it was not hot water, but it was a hot plate. It was a hot piece of metal.
Here it says he's running water from the gate, directly from the gate down spring. Is that a hot spring?
No,
And they want water.
they warm water. They would put in hot water in the mikveh to take away the chill. Okay. Amror Rabbanan Kamid Rav Papa. The student said in front of Rav Papa, Hadalek Rab Meir. Our mission doesn't fit with Rab Meir. Dear Rab Meir, because according to Rab Meir, Kivan Dami Trey Kedusha Alavisha Avadu, Achanami Lava Trey Kedusha Alavisha. The students say like this: you have to wash your hands and feet twice. Now, the question is, how does that work, the washing of the hands and the feet? So I have two approaches here. I'm wearing one set of clothing. I take off these clothing, and I go to the mikveh and I put on the new clothing. So once I'm dressed, I wash my hands and feet. That's associated with getting dressed with the new clothing. The first washing of the hands and feet, is that done because I was removing the old clothing, or is that done because I wash my hands and feet before I put on the new clothing and then after I put on the new? Is the first washing because of the undressing, or is the first washing because of the dressing? In other words, the second washing was clearly because of the dressing, getting dressed. What was the first washing? Was that the undressing? Okay. So what's the difference? Over here, he wasn't wearing Big Day Kodesh beforehand. He was just getting dressed for the first time. So what he's removing is not Kodesh. He's removing Chol clothing. So according to Reb Meir, he should be washing twice on the getting dressed. Once before he gets dressed and once after he gets dressed. Now, when he washes before he gets dressed, according to Reb Meir, he washes before he goes to the mikveh. He washes with undressed, goes to the mikveh, puts on the clothing, and then washes his hands. But it's associated with the getting dressed. Both of those washing. So in the words of the Gemara, Trei Kiddushi Alavisha, two washing of the hands go for the getting dressed. Avidlo, that's the way he learns it. So Achanami Lava Trei Kiddushi Alavisha. So over here, why doesn't he have to wash his hands before he goes to the mikveh for the getting dressed, and after he gets dressed, he should wash his hands again? It can't be that it's the opinion of Rav Meir. Amalu Rav Papa. Rav Papa says to the students, "Bein l'Rabbanan, bein l'Rav Meir, chad apshita the big dekodesh v'chal alavisha." You got it wrong. Rav Meir didn't hold that you wash your hands twice just for the levisha. Everyone holds that one is for the getting undressed and one is for the getting dressed. So then what's the machlekes? According to Rav Papa, the machlekes, the Rabbanan and Rav Meir, is slightly different than the way you thought. It goes like this. Pashat v'rachatz v'lavash. He gets undressed, he washes, and he gets dressed. Rav Meir says, "Ramakish pshita l'levisha." Rav Meir says you do a comparison. Ma levisha leivash v'achakach mekadesh af pshita paishat v'achakach mekadesh. It says that you get undressed, you wash your hands and you get dressed. It says that comparison, getting undressed and getting dressed, teaches me that the same way I wash my hands when I get dressed, that's how I wash my hands when I get undressed. Just like when I get dressed and then I wash my hands. So too, when I get undressed, I undress and then wash my hands. So he washes his hands after he takes off his old clothing. Which means that if he wasn't wearing big kodesh, he doesn't have to wash his hands. And that would explain our Mishnah. That's what Rav Papa is telling them, that our Mishnah could fit with Rav Meir also. So, Malavish Levachka, Pshita Pesh Vachka, okay, Rabbanan Sabri, the Rabbanan say no. Makish Pshita Levisha. I agree with you that there's a comparison. But the comparison is not the way that you said it. The comparison goes like this. Malavisha Kshu Lavash Makadesh. Just like getting dressed, he washes his hands when he's dressed. Af Pshita Kshu Lavash Makadesh. Also when he gets undressed, he washes his hands while he's dressed. Before he gets undressed. He always washes his hands with his clothing on, whether it's before he gets undressed or after he gets redressed. That's what the Rabbanan says. So there is a machlekes Rav Meir and the Rabbanan. It's on the first washing, if you wash your hands with your clothing on or after you've removed the clothing. But it's, Rav Papa saying, but it's associated with the removal of the clothing. Not the way the students thought that it's associated with the getting dressed. Amrulay, Rabbanan Rav Papa, the students say to Rav Papa, can you really say that? But we have a brisa. That they set up this curtain. He gets undressed. He goes down. He goes to the mikveh. And he comes up and he dries off. He puts on his clothing and he gets dressed. And he washes his hands and feet. Rav Meir says, Pashat, he gets undressed. And he washes his hands and his feet. You're giving me a pshat, but the brisa clearly says that you're wrong. The brisa says that according to Rav Meir, you wash twice, even by the first mikveh. That means when he's taking off the big dechal, he's still washing twice. Why? Because the washing is associated with the getting dressed. And he's putting on big dekodesh. So he has to wash before he gets dressed, he has to wash after he gets dressed. The washing before is even before the mikveh. Amar lahu, Rav Papa says, Tanya. If you have a brisa, then I can't argue with that. It's good according to Rav Meir. According to Rav Meir, we understand how you have 10 times you wash your hand, because you have 5 mikvahs, and each time has 2 washing the hands and feet. According to the Rabbanan, it's only 9, because the first one you didn't wash your hands because you didn't take off holy clothes at the beginning. So Amrilach Rabbanan, the Rabbanan will tell you, Kidusha Basra, Ki Pashat Big De Kodesh, Balavish Big De Chol, Avad Lehasan. The Rabbanan are going to say that when the day's over and I remove the holy clothing, the Kohen Gadol, and he removes the holy clothing, he has to wash his hands then. The Rabbanan hold that there's a washing that's associated with the undressing. So if that's the case, then when he removes the holy clothes, he has to do an extra washing. So it's really, the 10 really starts 1, and then it's 3, and then 5, and then you complete it at the 10 at the 1 at the end, according to the Rabbanan. Okay, so as opposed to Reb Meir, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, we'll leave it over here.
Good job.
Tanur Rabbanan. That we'll do tomorrow.